COP29 President Mukhtar Babayev says progress is underway in reaching the climate finance goals at COP29. A Slovakian law that limits the use of minority languages is raising fears among the country's Hungarian speakers.
Demonstrators break into the presidential office in Abkhazia in protest over a controversial agreement that would have allowed Russians to buy property in the breakaway region. The European Commission has hailed a gradual rebound in economic activity but warns the EU is vulnerable to rising protectionism.
Today, COP29 hosted a high-level panel on climate and peace, although the debate around the need for a reform of the COP process has very much taken center stage here in Baku. In an open letter published on Friday, more than 20 experts, including former leaders and scientists, said that despite its achievements, the COP process needs an overhaul. And as COP Week 1 draws to a close, we asked the COP29 president-designate what's his take so far.
Yeah, I think it is really a very good start for COP29. Not only 6.4 but also agenda adopted on the first day, and we start to work. 6.4 give us additional motivation to fulfill all other obligations or discussions items. But where we're focused for NCQG, it's a main topic for COP29, and all the countries we provide all necessity conditions to the parties to discuss it, to talk. We have a lot of ministerials, a lot of meetings here, and it is really very hard temperature of discussions now.
Meanwhile, progress on the agreement for the new climate finance goal is underway.
We have already positive signal from the MDBs, International Financial Institutes. They upgrade their contributions for the next years, and I think it's a good signal. And we continue to talk with the parties, with the donors, and a lot of discussions between the parties are continuing. We understand how it's important to give this positive message to the parties that all the forces are consolidated to have this conclusion in Baku, but it is really complicated. And we still trying to talk to the parties to navigate this process, and we provide all conditions to the parties to discuss, to debate, and to negotiate these very important issues.
All eyes are set on the coming days. Next week, in fact, will be crucial to determining how much this COP will achieve and the level of commitment from all parties in meeting the Paris Agreement's goals. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan.
In an exclusive interview with Euronews, former U.S. Vice President and founder of the Climate Reality Project, Gore, said a reform of the UN Climate Summit is necessary in order to speed up climate action. The phase-out of fossil fuels is essential for limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees, but it is paradoxically the second year in a row that the conference is held in a fossil fuel-dependent country.
I think the process should be reformed. I think it's absurd to have, for example, what we had last year with the CEO of one of the dirtiest oil companies on the planet serving as the president of the COP. It's a direct conflict of interest. And while the president of this COP is not the head of the oil industry, he is very much in sync with this country's reliance on fossil fuels.
Al Gore noticed that while people are growing increasingly concerned over the climate crisis, he says the fossil fuel industry continues to promote falsehoods about it.
People are growing more concerned, but at the same time, the fossil fuel industry, which has an interest in suppressing concern about the climate crisis because they don't want to reduce the amount of fossil fuel they're burning. They've been very active in trying to hold back the measures that have to be taken in order to solve this.
But the former U.S. vice president said that the fossil fuel industry is losing some of its major markets, such as through the advancement of renewable energy generation and the rising popularity of electric vehicles. Al Gore also believes the younger generation come in with much stronger opinions about solving the climate crisis.
Scientists have been telling us for a long time, and the fact that they were right in what they said years ago should make all of us pay more attention to what they're saying now. This could destroy the future of humanity if we don't take bold action.
Al Gore is hopeful and said he believes in humanity's ability to rise to the challenge, but that action is urgently needed.
The EU could see inflation rates fall by over 50% next year amid a modest economic rebound and record low unemployment. This is according to a European Commission 2025 forecast published on Friday. The report, however, warned the bloc is especially vulnerable to rising protectionism.
A possible protectionist turn in US trade policy would be extremely harmful for both economies. And the Commission will work with the incoming US administration to advance a strong transatlantic agenda and ensure that international trade channels remain open while making them more secure.
According to the report, EU households are still prudently saving rather than spending amid recent shocks, with fears the Trump presidency may impose tariffs of 10% on imports from places such as the EU. Officials in Brussels say the potential for further flare-ups in global trade is still worrying.
Protesters gathered in a suburb north of Paris on Thursday, just 2 kilometers away from the stadium where the controversial France versus Israel football match was held. Many protesters were angry. French President Emmanuel Macron and other prominent politicians were present at the game.
On pleure tous les jours. Tous les jours, moi, le soir, je me promène avec les chansons palestiniennes dans mes oreilles et je pleure pour tous ces gens qui sont massacrés. Et qu'est-ce qu'il fait notre président? Il vient en soutien à l'équipe israélienne. Mais c'est quand même dingue.
Le gouvernement est en train de nous montrer qu'il se rend complice de manière délibérée des atrocités commises par le gouvernement israélien et l'histoire se souviendra.
The rally was held the same day a special UN committee likened Israel's methods of warfare in Gaza to genocide.
Le match France-Israël est un scandale. Ce que fait Israël, l'État d'Israël, c'est un génocide. Et on est là pour le dire en fait. Et on va pas se taire en fait.
Heavy police presence, including drones and helicopters, prevented any major protests or fights close to the stadium. France did not want to take any chances after violent clashes erupted between Israeli football fans and pro-Palestinian supporters in Amsterdam last week.
Thousands of protesters opposing a measure that would have allowed Russians to buy property in Abkhazia, a Russian-backed breakaway region of Georgia, stormed into the region's parliament's building and presidential office on Friday. The protest in the regional capital of Sukhumi on the Black Sea left at least 8 people injured. Opponents of the property agreement say it would drive up prices of apartments and boost Moscow's dominance in the region.
Мы требуем от парламента ввести мораторий на соглашение и на закон об апартаментах. 2 моратория сегодня, если не будет здесь у нашего народа и не будет отставки президента, я думаю, что вы не должны уходить с этой площади.
Amid the unrest, the authorities have already withdrawn the draft law on ratifying the investment agreement with Russia in an attempt to resolve the situation.
A Slovakian law that limits the use of minority languages is raising fears among the country's Hungarian speakers after a new draft bill was leaked that may tighten the law even further. The amendment would supposedly ban the use of minority languages, including Hungarian, on public transport and in places such as post offices. On Thursday, the two countries' foreign ministers said the Slovakian government is not aiming to further tighten the current law, which has already produced some strange situations.
Az Izsai Múzeum alapítására kihelyezett emléktábla 4 nyelvű, de van egy mondat, ami csak magyarul szerepel rajta. A hatóságok ezt kifogásolták. Az önkormányzat ezért végül úgy döntött, hogy az Isten áld meg a magyart feliratot kihelyezi szlovákul is.
The reason for uncertainty is the possibility the amendment will be tabled by the Slovak National Party, the smallest coalition partner.
Az SNS egy olyan hagyományokkal rendelkező párt, amely mindig is zászlajára tűzte a szlovák államnyelv erősítését, és ezzel párhuzamosan és ezzel hagyományosan együtt járt a kisebbségi nyelvek korlátozása. Tehát az az ígéret, hogy jelenleg olyan törekvések vannak a szlovák kormánykoalíció vezető pártjaitól, a Smertől és a Hlasztól, hogy ne irányuljon arra jogalkotói szándék, hogy korlátozzák a kisebbségi nyelvhasználatot, az pusztán egy politikai állásfoglalásnak tekinthető.
Komarno in southern Slovakia is one of the most important cities of the Hungarian minority. Many people there conduct their affairs in Hungarian and want to keep it that way.
Nagyon sok országban volt már olyan, hogy nem beszélhet az ember a saját anyanyelvén, úgyhogy szerintem nagyon kiábrándító ez az egész, hogy mégiscsak ilyen törvényeket hoznak, és hogy szerintem joga van minden embernek a saját nyelvén beszélni.
Some people in Komarno have trust in the good relationship between the two countries' leaders. Viktor Orbán actively campaigned for Robert Fico before the Slovakian election and has since seen him as a close ally. However, if the SNS insists on the reform, Robert Fico may have to choose between the relationship with the Hungarian government and keeping his own coalition together.
Euronews. The news.